Good morning, and welcome to another enthralling episode of Diatribes from the voice of Doom. And now here's your enraged and enigmatic host, Voice of Doom. Hello, good morning. I am enraged again, of course. First thing in the morning. Great to get up and get mad. But I like to think it's righteous anger because I'm kind of happy with how my life is going, but the world seems to be going progressively down the toilet. And it's maddening, and I will tell you a few reasons why. But first, I wanted to add a coda to the last episode because I forgot one funny thing when I said, wouldn't it be funny? And I came up with something that would be so hilarious that it defies description. Except it would be very funny if, say for instance, they had an election in November and the Goppers got a supermajority because people were so sick of the Dems and wanted to punish them. And it'd be funny if the first thing the Gops did was go ahead and vote on that filibuster issue that the Democrats were whining about. And I say whining, and you know why. That'd be hilarious because then you would listen to the idiots, the morons, the demons say how unfair it would be to get rid of the filibuster. So if that happened, oh my God, would that be great. But they wouldn't even do that. If the GOPs got 60% of the Senate, they would squander it. They would do nothing. So, but it would be funny if that happened. 'Cause that's the first thing I'd do. It'd be funny if the Jopers actually acted like the Dems and said, okay, we're in charge now. We are going to start impeachment right this minute. And we're going to impeach everybody. For good reason. But I wanted to add that because I thought that would be really hilariously funny if that happened. Which it won't, even if they had the chance to do it. I got upset again. I saw the father of a girl who was killed senselessly. And when you say senselessly, it implies that there are sensible killings. But it's just an adjective. When it's a meaningless, an unnecessary death, the prime of someone's life, when they're expecting everything to happen for their future, and they're working and they're functioning in society, and they're killed by a crazy person. And we can all blame James Earl Carter for that because he released everybody because they decided it wasn't fair to have mentally ill people in institutions. That's why you don't see mental institutions anymore. The entire world is a mental institution. So it was heartbreaking, and I saw Steve Ducey break down, and he's a human being who has kids. You can empathize with the man, Todd Cupford, whose daughter Brianna was killed unnecessarily, and for reasons that are myriad as far as the cause. I'll say reasons. And it was heartbreaking, and I didn't want to watch it because I have kids and I don't want to think about the time and terrible it takes to reach a certain point in your life and it's all just ended. I don't like talking about cause and effect or the Buddhist perspective on some things because it sounds callous. Because Buddhism is reason. And sometimes reason, most of the time, reason is dispassionate, and it can be taken the wrong way. And people take words the wrong way all the time. I understand what people are trying to say when they say outrageous things. They just can't word it correctly. And then they're misunderstood, and they're blown out of proportion by different tribes, depending on what the issue is. But I will say this, and with all sympathy for a guy who's way better than me, because I can't be this Todd Cupford guy, because he is very gregarious and he doesn't put it on anyone's personal back, and to even talk about it this quickly after something happens, I wouldn't be able to do it. But you have to watch it. He's fair-minded, you can tell, and he wants to see action, but there needs to be action. Nobody's getting on a high horse using something as a, issue to get their agenda done. There's a crime problem, everybody knows it, and they're letting it happen. But I do want to say that when I did my diatribe about the family who was blown up by the United States because we had such great intelligence, I said we were going to pay. And I know it sounds bad, but we're paying. And I said we had to get rid of those guys because it's going to get worse and worse. And it's only getting worse. And by paying, the retribution, we're all connected, like I said, life and all phenomena. We blow up someone over here and something in a completely different context happens over here. Has nothing to do with each other, and yet it does. It's injustice, it's victims, it's real victims. Not victims like all those black people that can't make it to the polls, or the black people that are being turned away, their votes are being, discarded. It's so dumb. I mean, it's beyond dumb. I mean, she was a victim of policies that created a situation where there's anarchy and chaos in society. And I'm not going to belabor it. I just want to say that, it's not what goes around comes around. That is nothing like it. That family were victims in Afghanistan. We did it. We're going to pay. And people are paying all over because this girl is an example of many examples of mentally ill people and criminals getting away with murder. And even if they get caught, they still got away with it, didn't they? So enough of that preaching. I could go on about that subject at another time. I do want to say that I'm really unhappy with myself because even though I'm in my own little dream world thinking that this diatribe, podcast, what have you, is actually being watched by people, which it's not. But I act all perturbed with myself because I didn't get something out earlier. Because then I see the news catching up with what I'm saying, and I feel like, God, if I had done this 3 days earlier, I would have had a jump on them. But I was talking on my last diatribe about wouldn't it be funny if the media started deciding that it was better to lambaste this moron that we have in the leadership position rather than prop him up, which is becoming impossible. It's a physical impossibility to prop up a half cadaverous, blob of putrefied excrement. So let's go the other way. And now they're doing it. Now I feel like I was late getting my little quip out because I see it. Everybody sees it's happening. But let's go with the news and how they don't want to go to the third rail. And the third rail is unthinkable. That's why they don't want to go there. They kind of go from, well, they always want to think that the government deep down wants to help, wants to do the right thing. No matter how incompetent they are, their hearts are in the right place. And they start questioning odd behavior. Why did they do it this way? Doesn't make sense. It seems like any smart person at all with any brains would say, let's do it a different way because this way is going to be a disaster. And yet they do it, and everyone thinks, well, the government's incompetent, but they have our best interest at heart. They must. They don't want to go to the third rail. They don't want to go to it with anything. They don't want to go to the third rail of maybe they want her to help by getting a serum out so they could circumvent this horrible pandemic. And at first it's like, yes, they are helping. And then the second rail is, well, their hearts were in the right place, but maybe it's not helping that much. And the third rail is where nobody wants to go. Nobody wants to think about it. Nobody will report it until it starts happening. And then I can tell they're going to lose it. Because the third rail is volition. The third rail is deliberatedness of a conscious effort to do bad, okay? Nobody wants to think about that possibility. And yet the possibility is there because every possibility is there. So, I think I said a lot. I think that people have to think about the third rail and they don't want to go there. They don't want to say anything like maybe it's a deliberate effort to destroy society by having criminals run rampant. Maybe it's a deliberate effort to harm people physically by forcing them to take things that may not be the best thing in the world to take. The cure worse than disease. Or maybe they deliberately want people massacred. They want Uyghurs massacred and all the extraneous people that really don't matter to be dealt with. And I will leave it at that because I wanted to talk more about something that I saw. I was getting into the generational theory and the patterns. So I keep getting up this thing on YouTube saying 1939, you know. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to check out that. And I watched it, and we're in 1939 right now. All over again. And if you look at the 1939 documentary, you'll see how bad it's going to get. Unbelievable how many people have died. How many soldiers have marched. You see the footage in 1939 of all the soldiers on the march. Billions of them. It's like it's a class of people, like, you know, army ants. So I'll talk about that next time. I think I made a few points and I was a bit melancholy, but it's a sad time. People are dying for no reason, but is there a reason? Think about that as you have your breakfast. And good morning to you all.